Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself from that page. It's a simple PDF file. Just click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also download from that page a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness. If you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app. That app contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we'd appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or comment from you through an email, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. Alternatively, if you'd like to join us live, weekdays from 11 till noon Central Time, you can go to Zoom and open up a browser window and enter the meeting ID number 853-2357-4173. That's at zoom.us, and you'll find phone numbers there. If you want, you can just call one of their many phone numbers and enter the same meeting ID number, 853-2357-4173. And if you do that through the phone, when you log in, you'll end up muted. You'll begin in a mute position, and you can hit *6 to unmute and mute yourself back and forth if you want to speak up, which we greatly encourage, because when people share their comments and questions and feedback with us, it dramatically increases the chances that that'll be a highlight show, and it makes it far easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be a service, and that's just infinitely easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. So please feel free to let us know, either with an email or a phone call or direct participation through zoom.us. We had our support group last night, and somebody was really interested in listening to something that would be more peaceful and loving and bring a little joy, because people had been in the intro to the support group, people had been talking about their woe is me. I've been watching all these horrible things on the TV about, the politics and the immigrants and the ICE and all of that. And when they finally were able to say, okay, enough negativity, I don't want to do this anymore, somebody spoke up and said, let's listen to something more positive. And what they chose was to listen to one of the archives of the show, the internet show here, Mind Shifters Radio, where I was reading through The Way of Mastery with commentary. And all those files, or almost all of them, are available on the mindshiftersacademy.org website. And it's on a page that's titled, Reading the Way of Mastery with commentary. So if you're looking for something positive and gentle and loving and uplifting, that's available. It's a free resource for as long as I can maintain it. We'll maintain the website that has mindshiftersacademy.org as its URL, and pages like that, where I've accumulated a full year of reading The Way of Mastery with commentary. So it is an in-depth, I like to think it's gentle, it's thorough, it's a reading of The Way of Mastery in which I try to weave in similar positions from Guy Finley or Michael Ryce or Dale Allen Hoffman or Byron Katie or Diederik Wolzak, and just weave that into the narrative as I'm reading through The Way of Mastery. Also available on that website are the files of me reading The Way of Mastery without commentary, just as close to verbatim as I could manage during those years when I was reading those into my computer. And the purpose of it was I wanted to be able to listen to The Way of Mastery as I was driving. I was doing a lot of driving in those days for various offices that I worked in. And it helped me get out of the news cycle. It helped me not just have to listen to constant talk radio dramas. So that's how that originated. And I've just done what I can to maintain people's ability to access those files, with the mindshiftersacademy.org website. So if you're so inclined, that's available. Please take advantage of it and then let us know what you think. It is a labor of love, as my parents would say. So we have plenty of time for comments and questions. If nobody speaks up, I will return to the reading with commentary of the book by Guy Finley. This is the book titled The Book of One Love, One Life, One Journey by Guy Finley and Dr. Ellen Dickstein.
So, Tim?
Yes.
I would like to speak up.
Please do.
I've started reading Elizabeth Gilbert's All the Way to the River.
Oh, boy.
I know. It is a whopper.
That is a heck of a book.
Yes, and partly in my own defense, because I've been calling myself a sex and love addict, mainly a relationship addict. And I recognize a lot of things. I've just got the book out. I'm trying to find the 3 questions that she had us ask ourselves that define an addict. and I haven't found them. I just got off my support group. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. These things are familiar, and I want to read them. Number one, have you tried to stop this behavior and you can't? Number two, have you managed to stop at times, but you can't stay stopped? Number three, has your behavior brought consequences to your life that might cause a normal person to say, wow, I'll certainly never do that again, yet you keep doing that thing? I would say that I recognize myself in all of those, although number three is, I should
It's in the
just,
rearview mirror for the most part.
it's yes and
It,
no. I feel as if I have had a much less brave life than she has. She dared to, it's like my grandson Luke, who dared, for whatever reason, to drink himself nearly to death. And I think I had a fundamental valuing of my own life that I would never, knock on wood, never go that far, never put myself in that much jeopardy. I would step back and, from a normal person perspective that also lived inside me, I could say, I might want to do that, but I'm definitely not going to do that, because it isn't honoring of the other person. It isn't honoring who people around me in my life who are my steady people, isn't honoring me. It's crazy. It's damaging. I wouldn't do that. But I might have an impulse. I have lots of impulses to do crazy things. I've wanted to get on a bus and drive right out to your office and meet you face to face and hug you. I don't do that. I don't do that. Not to mention that you might hate that or whatever, but I have a sane head on my shoulders. And I'm amazed she's still alive. She's been to such extremes. So I don't know where I'm going with this, except that it's an amazing book to read, because it's like she does what I do, but much more of it.
yeah, she is a very, very bright, very intense individual.
Fantastic writer, too.
Yeah, she's a really good writer. I sent somebody a message because I knew they would be driving for hours and hours. They were going across several states. So I sent them a message about how I think they would benefit by, if they bought the Audible version of that book, if they just listened for the first hour, because within that first hour, Liz gives her definition of the deal that she makes with people when she falls in love with them, that she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really tell them about, right? But how
Yeah.
she's going to pour every bit of her life energy into them and trying to make them happy, and they owe her whatever behaviors they need to do to keep her feeling loved, because she can't feel loved inside herself.
Mm.
That's in the beginning. That's within the first hour. So I sent him that notification, and then a couple weeks later, when he was back to see me, um, he said, that is not a possible assignment. I can't. There's no way I could just listen to 1 hour of that book. He said I had to buy the book and I
Mm-hmm.
had to read the book,
Mm-hmm.
because she is such a good writer and because the message was so relevant for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an intense book, and the thing that makes it so valuable in my way of looking at these things is her deep honesty.
Yes, incredible.
It's the kind of honesty that, in my years of studying and reading books and trying different authors, is rare to find. It's intense, and yet that's what makes it so valuable. right? If it's just window dressing, if it's just fluff to make people feel good, it has very little value, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any other question from your reading of her book that is
Well, no,
bubbling
I
up?
just want to, my main motive is if you're running screaming because you think I might be like her, I'm telling you I'm not. I want to, regain some integrity over here. I feel as if I'm being honest too, but I can't write a book like that because I don't. My memoir is full of things, and I begin to, as I go back, I'm even saying this is phase one of the development of myself as an addict that I wasn't recognizing for an awfully long time. Now I see what happens. I can see it 20 feet away, whereas before it was on me totally before I could see what I was doing. And I've developed all kinds of tools to watch what I'm doing and what the other person is doing, and reminding myself that the other person is a separate person. I have no control over that person at all. I have no way of getting anything from somebody that they don't want to give, etc. I love the exercise. It's a healthy, it's a discipline though. But I just wanted to say that in my own defense, so that
Well, I'm in a little shock here, wondering why you feel like you have to defend yourself. Who's been attacking you? I don't get it.
well, I figured that this book we're both reading and other people are reading defines a relationship or sex and love addict. And I have announced on here that I'm one of those. And so I'm imagining that people might be reacting to what I'm saying the way I'm reacting to her book. That I can't do all that.
Okay.
Glad you think it's funny. I don't know
Well,
why it's
I
funny.
I don't well, because my brain didn't go there. There was nothing in any of this presentation that left me thinking Susan Bingham is being attacked and she needs to defend herself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
Yeah.
I'm for letting me, share your view so I can understand why you're getting defensive. But um, as with all of these things, I just want to say there's no need to be defensive. It's not, what you're doing in your patterns and what you want to correct so that you prefer the results you get. That's for you to do. That's your life. That's not
Mm-hmm.
anybody else's business. So,
Okay. Well. Mm-hmm.
it's like the people that come to the support group and they think they're going to get in trouble if they don't do worksheets. And that's just not the way I operate.
Mm-hmm.
Use them if they work for you. Don't if you don't want to. If there's something we're doing in the support group that you find useful and you want to hang out and you never do a worksheet, that's perfectly okay. That's just, you know, I I show up and I do the internet show and sometimes there's one or two people and sometimes there's five or six. And it's not for me to decide who shows up and why and when. It's mine just to show up and do my best as I show up. And if you're doing that, which I believe you are in spades in your life, then there's nothing to get defensive about.
Okay. Thanks. Mm.
Yes, indeedy do. Nothing to get defensive about. Well, something else you want to mention or another topic you want to bring up for
No.
us?
But I'm just grateful to her because she does it worse than I do, or better, depends on how you define an addict. Um, I'm grateful to her to show a much wider playing field than I've ever played in. And I've done some pretty crazy things. But part of me knew it wasn't going to go very well. And it seems as if somehow she didn't know that, or
It seems as though somehow she didn't know what.
that it was going to go badly. And yet I have to modify that because that relationship she had with Rhea took her to the brink of insanity, but she survived it and wrote a book. So there was a huge amount of creativity that came out of being brave enough to go to the edges that I wouldn't want to go to. I don't know where this is going, and I better stop talking. Okay, Dr. Tim, I'll just mute myself and listen.
Well, I'm thinking about the book as you're talking, right? I'm thinking about this confluence of factors that come together in all of our lives. And one of them is financial, and one of them is our intellectual abilities, and one of them is our creative abilities and our physical strengths and health. So all of these factors that just kind of come together in a soup or stew that each of us comes out differently from that soup or stew. And
Mm-hmm.
it includes things from both sides of our bloodline, a mom's side and dad's side. It includes the family constellation that we're born into, siblings, etc. Whether we're born into money or we're born into people who have lots of money but they're not comfortable with it, or people who have very little money and they are comfortable with that, so they find just joy in the simple things in life. All of these things come together. And when you have somebody, which I believe we have in someone like Elizabeth Gilbert, who has a very high emotional intelligence, a very high creativity,
Mm-hmm.
a high intellectual capacity, and this gift of writing, and this trait, I won't call it a gift or a curse or anything, but this trait of being an adventurer, right? Being
Mm-hmm.
somebody who will just, like your son, go buy a boat and get on it and sail away for a while. So when those factors come together, what we most often see when we get lucky enough to get a glimpse like this, if it's not a friend or a family member that we're watching go through this, there are people going through this stuff all the time around us, and they don't write books, and we don't get a window into the
Well,
process.
that's true. I never even thought about that. That's true.
So I think it's a real gift, and it's also, part of why it's a gift is because it provides an enormous cautionary tale, big
Mm.
set of flashing red neon sign warning signs
Mm-hmm.
for people.
Mm.
And, it has to do with understanding how we work as people, what motivates us, what makes us tick, what makes us happy, sad, frustrated. Because until we sort that out, we're not in a very good position to be making the decisions that we have to make in our lives that nobody else can make for us. And that's how people end up so often going from one abusive relationship to another, because they're not aware of the whole pattern, and they're not aware of their own individual distortions in perception, etc. So that's the gift in this book, is that those of us who might use that kind of information to look inside ourselves and clean up our own patterns can sidestep some of the disruptions
Mm.
that we would otherwise walk blindly into.
Mm.
One of the things that comes out of that book very strongly is that when we confuse the word love for the word approval, which so many of us have been trained into, literally conditioned into,
Mm,
then we open up, you know, one nightmare scenario after another.
right. That's the line.
That's the what?
That's the line of demarcation between, and she doesn't always know, I don't think, or she didn't at the beginning. I'm only a little way into the book.
Well, the point is that she's been curious and she's been creative and she's been adventurous and loving, and yet there's core personal issues work to do that she never did,
Yeah.
that she was always using something to distract herself from.
Hmm. And yet, the question is, this woman, Rhea, it seems as if she appreciated this woman, put aside all the things she wanted from her. She had a tremendous appreciation of how wonderful and amazing that woman was. It's almost as if she was like God in the full appreciation of that woman, to the point where she could accept even the great negative things about going, how she went back on the drugs and was awful.
Okay, but here's the point. Because they were mislabeling their craving for each other as love,
Mm-hmm.
they ended up doing serious disruption to both of their lives, abusive disruption to both of their
Yeah.
lives.
Mm. I'm just sorting that out in my mind. I don't even know how to draw one distinction from another, because right now I'm thinking that Elizabeth Gilbert's appreciation of Rhea was complete, so that she could do no wrong, even as she did tons of wrong.
But
But I
that's
have,
not, there's nothing
yeah.
healthy in that, right? When you say Liz Gilbert's appreciation of Rhea,
Mm,
I'm thinking that you're imagining that's a good thing. Her
yeah.
ability to appreciate all these different levels and layers of life with Rhea. And I'm saying that was not healthy. It's not accurate,
Mm,
right? Rhea was not God.
right.
Rhea was as human as everybody else. And she had these traits and characteristics that endeared her to certain people, like Liz Gilbert, but lots of others as well. But she's just a human being. And the blinders that Liz had on allowed her to pretend that it was okay to do all of these really destructive things and imagine we won't have all the negative consequences. But they did have
Mm,
all the negative consequences, and they were horrible,
mm,
and they took themselves right to the brink. But the other thing is, when you get through the whole story, bless her heart, Liz is on the other side of it, deciding for deep honesty, and reveals that the enabling that Liz did wasn't good for her or Rhea.
mm,
And when she finally woke up to how deeply in the muck they were and how she was literally thinking of ending her life or ending Rhea's life, etc.,
right.
and she backed away from it and she quit doing the enabling, guess what happened with Rhea? She got
I don't
clean.
know this.
She got clean and sober,
Oh, well,
right?
okay. Well, I'm
Because
not far enough in the book. Yeah.
that's Rhea's choice and Rhea's life and Rhea's path. So as long as, as soon as, or fairly soon after, Liz was able to pull back from her love addiction and put herself on abstinence and say, look, I'm going to quit this drug of choice. I'm going to do my own inner work. I'm going to face the hard lessons inside me. As
Mm,
soon as Liz did that, this thing that everybody was pretending is this addiction that they can't control and Rhea's got no control over it, etc. And it's got her, she quit, which,
she quit. She didn't die first. I thought
she
she
did
had died.
not die addicted.
Oh
She
wow.
quit the
Okay.
drugs before she died.
Mm,
And so, one of the many gifts of a book like that is to say, wait a minute, there's a real serious invisible power that gets going in our relationships. You might understand, you might remember, I don't know, the the years that Michael Ryce has had in his teachings that I've followed him, and he's changed things from time to time. So I don't know if you've heard this, but it used to be that when Michael would do his talk about relationships and healing through relationship, he would talk about the word pagra. Have you heard him talk about a pagra?
yeah, and I don't remember what it is.
It's the concept, it's a word for the concept that when two people come together, two or more come together, there's another entity that's born. There's the
Oh yeah.
relationship itself has its own dynamics, its
Right.
own authority, power, flow of ebb and flow, etc.
Right.
And one of the gifts of a book like All the Way to the River by Elizabeth Gilbert is that even though I don't believe it talks about, the word pagra, but it really demonstrates how the interaction between these two people had its own life and had the ability to, put blinders on them or
Mm-hmm.
offer them blinders and they would take them because it would be easier than looking at the difficult stuff.
Yeah.
And when you change your part of an unsatisfactory, or you might call it an abusive pattern in a relationship, it forces change in the system. It's not always going
Right.
to change the way you want. It's not always going to instantly give you the perfect results. And yet, I like to add this. I say to people, I, as I walk down the street, anybody could hurl an insult at me or throw, a snowball at my head or whatever. So people can do things that are abusive to me, and I can't stop that, right? It can happen.
Mm,
At the same time that's true, I have to actively participate in an abusive relationship.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So while I may be in a relationship and I don't have any control over my partner, and he or she may come to me and say, you know, you're the reason that everything is going to hell on this planet and blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I can't stop that from happening. And
Mm,
yet, I don't have to buy into it, right? I don't have to
right.
think that the words coming out of that person's mouth are about me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I can acknowledge that if there's an insult or a put down or a swear word coming out of somebody else's mouth, that means inside them there's a pain or a fear or a sadness going on that they don't feel willing or capable of dealing with inside themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And from that perspective, I'm just a half a step away from compassion for them
Mm,
rather than defensiveness.
right. That's very helpful and probably not in the way you meant, but it helps me real.
A different way?
Yeah, a different way.
Since you're in my head and you know exactly what I mean, what's what's the different way?
Well, in normal relating, I totally get that. And I think for the most part, if a salesperson crabs at me or blames me for something, I might have a reaction. It might sting, but then I can pull out the stinger really fast and recalibrate and realize this is their stuff. But in the addicted relationship, that is all gone. The other person I've given a power to the other person to tell me if I'm okay or not. And I'll take their word. Their word is it. So they use the word enmeshment, and I suppose that's a use of it. But what you're saying is just helping me define the different kinds of relationships I've had. And oftentimes with the object of my attention, the addiction attention, I can still step back and say, no, it might sting longer, but I might be able still to say, no, that's that person's stuff, not mine. I don't know, Tim. I hear I'm going on and on. It's just helpful. What you said is helping me become healthier, just hearing what you say. So,
Yeah, I don't know what the tie-in is here, but as I'm listening to you, I'm flashing to my first job after college, and it was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, at an alternative jailing facility for adult male nonviolent offenders.
wow. Mm-hmm.
They just took an old nursing home in the center of town, and they locked it from the outside, but not from the inside. So anybody who was in there could go to the door and push the bar and just walk out. No one's going to
Right.
stop them. But if they leave the non-secure facility without permission, then they have to go to the regular jail, and then they can't have a furlough and be with their family and maintain their job and go
Mm.
to AA meetings and stuff like that. In that job, it was a startup, right? I was one of the first crew that was put together to man this thing. So they had a male and a female on the shift from 7 to 3 and then 3 to 11 and 11 to 7. And I was teamed with a woman and on the day shift. And so I got to see a lot of the inner workings of the business office and the two good old boy political appointees who were running the show. And then I put running the show in quotes because basically this woman, Denise, did everything. And Denise was a, you know, healthy, slender, blonde woman who just kept everything running. I mean, she was like um, CEO and the CFO and and all the vice presidents all rolled into one. And anything that needed to happen there, she was a go-to person. She was the shell answer person for that. I remember, like it was yesterday, riding in a car with her once on some errands and her confessing to me that her boyfriend beats her on a regular basis, but he knows not to hit her in the face.
God.
And my mind, my brain was just I I I probably remember it like it was yesterday because I just couldn't make this make any sense. She was young and attractive and intelligent and great work ethic and fun personality, and how could she let somebody physically beat her up?
Mm.
And I don't know exactly why my brain went to that when you were talking, but that's what happened. The idea of these patterns coming up, probably invisible to the people who are in them, at least until they get to a certain level. And because they're invisible, they've got so much more staying power, right? They've got so much more reach. And there was nothing I could say or do that would do anything other than have her escalating her anxiety. The more I talked about, let me help you or let me get you some help, the more anxious she got. She didn't want anybody messing with this system. Now I know a lot more about it now. Right? She would have greatly benefited from reading the book on fawning by Dr. Clayton, Ingrid Clayton, or this book by Liz Gilbert about All the Way to the River. She would greatly benefit if she was willing to read those and integrate their perspectives. And yet, because that wasn't happening, as far as I could tell, based on my conversations with her, almost every decision she made regarding the relationship was driven by fear. And just keep my head down and just don't make him too angry and, just don't rock the boat, keep the status quo. So I don't know if that has any relevance for you or not, but that's what popped into my head when you were talking.
Well, thanks. I don't understand the relevance either, but what a story.
Well, it's the story of the power of the system we get going in our mind, and the system, the pagra, the actual life force of the relationship itself, that's different than my life force and is different than my partner's life force. It's got a life of its own. Remember me talking about the advanced family therapy class I took after grad school? This is postdoctoral work. And we went to this woman's house. She's in her 60s, and she's a psychiatrist, and she's married to a psychiatrist. And this was back when the psychiatrists did the therapy. They didn't just write scripts. They weren't drug company employees back then, right? They were just Freud and Jung and Adler, and they were the people that crafted the theories about how personalities work and what you can do to intervene when there's a problem in a relationship or a personality. So they were the originators of what we're calling therapy today. And in that class, I think we had 13, maybe 14 adults, all, I think the least bit of experience in the room was 7 or 8 years experience doing therapy, and it went up to in the 30s, right? The people, these were mature adults who have been licensed as either nurses or social workers or psychologists. And what would happen in that work is that she would sit with us one at a time with the rest of the group observing and do a genogram on us, which means she would ask us questions, and as we answered, she would draw a picture on this large sheet of paper on an easel that would map out our family history. And as she went up, she would use a square for men and a circle for women and put, their name and or their the age they were when they died, if they were deceased, and put a line through it, or their current age if they were still alive. And then as she would go all the way up as far as you could remember into your grandparents or great-grandparents, etc., then she would come back down and start asking you questions about what you knew, what the family lore was about the relationships between these people. And those relationships were mapped out with solid lines, dotted lines, squiggly lines, different colors, etc. And to a person, as we sat there and told her about our family, we were shocked by the reaction of the people in the room who were watching. We, who were telling the person what to write on the board, were blind to the patterns that everybody else in the room could see. Do you remember me talking about that?
No, I don't. I'm embarrassed to say, but I don't.
So this is the every one of us had that experience.
Mm.
And I wish I could remember what the things were that I learned about my family system that I'd never seen before when I went through that. But here's the one that I remember most. There was a young woman there, and by young I mean she was in her 40s. And from the very beginning, as we were talking, and we would have snacks, it'd be a 3 or 4 hour class. We'd do it once a month for, I think we did 9 months of the year. We had 3 months off for summer. So it was a year-long class, but we got to know each other, right? We would have tea or coffee or cookies and breaks and discussions. And so from the very beginning, everybody in the class knew that this young woman had a 12-year-old daughter that was just creating havoc in the house.
Mm.
And I'm one of those people whose bias has always been, stay and work it out, especially if you're married, et cetera, et cetera. But if you've got an abusive situation going and you've tried everything you can think about and anything that the experts can think and anything your friends and family can offer, and you've tried it all and you can't end the abusive pattern, that's when I finally say, okay, change it up, leave the
Mm.
relationship or whatever. So I was a holdout among the group. Most of the other people would offer her a suggestion or two, which of course she's either already done
Right.
or by the next month when she would come in, she would say, yeah, I tried it, it didn't work. So nothing was working.
Mm.
Finally, I even jumped on the bandwagon and said, well, you've got these other kids in the house and they have a right to a peaceful life too. So, of course, maybe you do need to send her away. And then she got in the hot seat and she told, um, I almost had the woman's name. She told the therapist running the class what to put on the board. And as they were coming back down, mapping out the relationships, all of us gasped and exclaimed to this woman, you cannot send your daughter away. And she says, what are you talking about? What she mapped out was that if she sends her daughter away, she will be the fifth generation in a row where the second youngest daughter is shipped out of the house between ages 10 and 12.
Wow.
And she insisted that's got nothing to do with me. It's perfectly understandable. We lived in the South. We lived on a farm. And what good was another girl if you've already got a girl there to help you with the babies and with the cleaning and cooking? You don't need another girl around there. She can't help with the chores. So of course you would send her to a neighboring farm
Oh, no.
or to relatives in a different county where she could
Mm.
be some use at
Mm.
10 or 11 years old.
Oh, God.
That's what she had in her head, that she was not letting us help her see any differently. That's how
Mm.
strong that pattern was.
Wow.
And it's the kind of thing that we saw over and over and over again. These things that come down to us from the generations, unless you've got people out here banging the gong about it, we don't know that we
Mm.
have ancestral patterns being handed to us, unless we're
Wow.
reading a book like Mark Wolyn's It Didn't Start With You, unless we have Michael Ryce banging the gong over and over again about how, yay, into 3 and 4 generations, these energies get passed down. We are not taught that in our culture.
Mm.
We aren't taught that in most of our therapies. And so these very powerful patterns exist. And at the very least, they influence our relationships, if not script them from start to end.
Amazing. That's an example of how powerful those generational patterns are. And I've never thought about the fact that they are that powerful.
They are. And that is why Michael Ryce gives his talks about healing through relationship and the commitment and the concept of the pagra, this,
Right.
all-encompassing, powerful dynamic
Mm.
that feeds and fuels your interaction in relationships that you're in, whether you realize it or not. And so he offers the tool, the commitment, so that people can consciously choose, let's have this be our template for relating to each other, right? Michael uses the phrase personal code, and he says, you don't do anything that doesn't resonate with your personal code. You only do the things that your mind offers you to do. And your mind is going to offer you to do these things because as you've been living your life, you've accumulated these data points and you've reached conclusions about them. And so you think this is appropriate and this is not appropriate. And that constitutes what Michael would call your personal code.
Wow. Well, that's a whole other topic, the personal code evaluation. I've done 2 of them.
Well, but it's not the evaluation, right? It's just the code.
Okay, say the difference.
Because the evaluation is a piece of paper you answer questions on.
Yeah.
The personal code is this concept about what's driving me.
Okay.
It's the living, breathing constellation in my mind about how I should act in this next moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Okay.
So here it is. It's it's 11:53 Central Time. I'm on the internet show. I'm wearing a blue shirt. I'm supposed to be the guru psychologist and shall answer person in this particular role, right? Here I am.
Mm-hmm.
What I do I finish this call? Do I say, I'm tired of this conversation and hang up? Do I end it in my usual way with we come from love, etc.? All those behaviors, whether I realize it or not, will come from my personal code. So it's just a concept. It's not like, like my right hand is a solid thing. The personal code evaluation is a written assessment device that you can use to figure out how is that individual invisible code within you sitting right now. So Michael says, so here's your personal code. We all have them. We're not aware of them. We don't have them consciously. But I have mine from my family, and whoever I would get together with has them from their family. And we get along just fine until a problem comes up. And then I step back from the problem and I see the problem in my partner. My partner steps back from the problem and sees the problem in me. I can clearly see it's his or her problem. He or she can clearly see it's my problem. And now we're clashing because I want to say, don't worry about it, Betty Lou. I know how to handle these from my family. And Betty Lou says, you're an idiot. I got the real answer. My family does it this way. This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then there's a clash between ways of dealing with the other person, the situation, the problem, however you want to term it. And Michael says, so here's the commitment. It is a tool that he offers that families, individuals can have, and they can use it so they can both be on the same page about how they will handle difficulties when they come up. And the commitment that he offers is a one sheet of paper. You can get it off of the whyagain.org website. It's called My Commitment. And it reads, in one of the iterations, this is probably not his most recent. He's been making changes to these things as it bubbles up for him. But the commitment says, I promise to trust you enough to tell you the truth and be true to you. I commit to always be sweetness in your life, to nurture you daily and treat you lovingly, gently, and with respect in my thoughts, words, and actions, whether I'm in your presence or not. In every interaction, I commit to affection for you, to look for and acknowledge the highest and best in you, and to surrender to this capital L love, this energy of creation, which is our true nature. My connection to my source, my relationship with you, and our serenity will always be more important than any issue. I open my heart to embrace you in my love. I open my heart to be embraced in your love. If anything unlike love comes up, I will hold us in my heart and listen as I learn to speak, experience, and be able to respond differently for my own realities, to be response-able for my realities. In other words, the pictures my mind creates, the emotions and upset that I create. I will be here for you and with you. I promise to keep communication open and keep love conscious, active, and present as we heal, celebrate life, and grow together. Now, what he offers is, if you read this to each other, if you keep this top of mind, if you practice this enough, and then you give each other permission to coach each other when one party or the other might be drifting away from said commitment or personal code for the pagra, for the relationship, then we can be working towards peaceful resolutions of our conflicts in a loving, respectful way. And yet, it takes work. It's a real thing. This energy of the pagra, the relationship, it carries its own momentum. And if I'm not going to be conscious of it, stay tuned into what's really going on with me, ask my partner what's going on with them, him or her, and stay actively engaged in it, what's going to happen is the old patterns, the unproductive patterns, the habit mind, what Guy Finley calls the mechanical level of mind, what Michael Ryce calls the 9-bit mind, or the pseudo-solutions of the 9-bit mind kick in. And the tool, the commitment, is something Michael offers as a personal code for our relationship, for our pagra, for this living entity of